Day 1 of the dopamine detox. I checked my phone 47 times before noon. By day 7, I forgot my phone existed for 5 hours. Sat down to work and looked up 3 hours later. The phone was still face down on my desk. Dead. I hadn't noticed. That was the first time in years my brain felt quiet. This is what changed. And what didn't. Anna Lembke writes in Dopamine Nation that we're living through a crisis of overstimulation. Every notification, every scroll, every autoplay sends a hit of dopamine. Over time, our brains adapt by producing less of it. So normal life starts to feel gray, flat. You reach for your phone because the alternative feels unbearable. Lembke calls this the pleasure-pain balance. The more pleasure you get from high dopamine activities, the more pain you feel when they're gone. The only way to reset it is to stop. Completely. For at least a week. I wanted to know if that was actually true. Here were the rules. No social media, no YouTube for entertainment, no junk food, no short-form content. I deleted every app that algorithmically fed me content. Kept messaging, maps, camera, calendar. The phone became a tool, not a toy. Then I tracked everything. Screen time, pickups, focus out of 10, mood out of 10, every day. Day 1, before I'd even started, 74 pickups, 4 hours and 12 minutes of screen time. And I hadn't done a single thing I actually cared about. The first thing I noticed was the automatic reach, sitting at my desk trying to work, and my hand would drift toward my pocket. No thought, just movement. 7 times in the first hour. Every time, I pulled my hand back and just sat there. The anxiety was immediate, a low-level panic that something important was being neglected. But nothing was being neglected. Nothing had happened. I just wasn't consuming. Day 2 was worse. The cravings weren't for anything specific. I didn't miss Instagram. I didn't miss YouTube. I missed the noise, the feeling of input, something, anything. Here's what nobody told me about the withdrawal. It wasn't the phone I missed. It was the escape. I've been using my phone to avoid being alone with my own thoughts, and without the escape hatch, I had to sit with them. All of them. I almost broke the experiment that night. Not because I wanted to watch a video, because I wanted to stop thinking. But I didn't break. Day 3 felt different before I even opened my eyes. I made coffee and drank it standing at the counter, did not check my phone. It felt like nothing. But by the end of the day, I'd read for an hour straight. No checking, no drifting. I just read. Lembke writes the brain needs 2 to 4 days to start downregulating its dopamine receptors, to stop screaming for the high and accept the baseline. On day 3, that started happening. Day 4 was the turning point. I sat down to work at 8 a.m. and looked up at 11:30. 3.5 hours of uninterrupted focus. I didn't feel superhuman. I just felt present. Like I was inside my own life instead of watching it through a screen. But there was one thing getting worse, not better. And I didn't notice it until day 5. When you stop numbing yourself, you start noticing things. What you're actually spending your life on. What you've been avoiding. Day 5, I realized how much of my life had been on autopilot. The phone had been filling the gaps. The uncomfortable spaces between tasks, between thoughts, between the person I was and the person I wanted to be. Without the filler, the gaps were visible, and some of them were wide. That was the hardest day. Not because of the cravings, because of the clarity. Day 6 and 7 settled into something quieter. I wasn't checking my phone anymore. I was checking in with myself. I noticed when I was tired, when I was hungry, when I needed a break. The final numbers. Day 1, 4 hours, 12 minutes, 74 pickups. Day 7, 41 minutes, 11 pickups, Focus went from a 4 to an 8. Mood from a 5 to a 7. Not life-changing, but real. 7 days. 2 things stayed with me. First, the problem wasn't my phone. The phone was a symptom. The real problem was I didn't know what I was avoiding. The detox didn't fix my life. It turned the volume down on the distraction so I could hear what I'd been running from. Second, Lembke writes that the opposite of addiction isn't sobriety. It's connection. Day 6, a friend called. I answered. No agenda, we talked for 40 minutes. I wasn't multitasking, I wasn't half listening, I was just there. The phone isn't the enemy. Using it to hide from your own life is. Most people read the book. We test it, honestly. If you want to run this experiment yourself, I built the same tracker I used. Link is in the description.